The Festool CXS is woefully underpowered, and the plastic that it's made out of feels cheap. Are you out of your mind to pay nearly twice the price for this drill as you are for the largely superior Milwaukee M12? Let's find out. The Milwaukee just destroys the Festool here. We're looking at 300 inch-pounds of maximum torque for the M12. Over here, we've got 141.6. So not even half as much torque with the Festool. Now what does that mean? With this Milwaukee, you can use a 3-inch hole saw to go through 3/4 inch plywood if you need to. With the Festool, this thing's gonna catch you on fire and explode in your hand. Definitely would not be able to use a 3-inch hole saw. Not even gonna try. Don't wanna kill this thing. So for a more applicable everyday type situation, let's take two 3-inch screws, drive them both into this 2x4, and that'll give you a pretty good idea on the power difference here. And while we're talking power, it is important to mention that the Festool CXS comes with a 2.6 amp battery, comes with 2 batteries in the kit, and the Milwaukee kit comes with two 2 amp batteries that are 12 volt. The M12 Milwaukee platform with this type of battery, I mean, there's over 100 plus tools in this system. With the Festool, this particular battery here is 1 tool deep. This is it. This is the only tool that works with these batteries. So if you get one of these drills, you're definitely having at least 2 battery charging systems. Let's talk attachment chucks. Now the kit version of the Festool comes with 3 different chucks. The Milwaukee M12 comes with 4. They all have the same chucks, except the Milwaukee comes with a handy little offset chuck for getting into tight spaces where you need to get right along something. Now when we take a look at the other chucks, there's not a huge difference here. The right angle are both super nice. In terms of clipping on and off the drill, I wouldn't say there's an advantage to either of the systems. They're about the same. They're both pretty nice. You can take them off with one hand. The Festool comes on and off quite nicely. I've used the Festool more, so I'm probably more used to it, but they're about the same in terms of attaching and reattaching. I'd have to say the Jacobs chuck, the Milwaukee one is metal and it's a little nicer. The thing I like about the Milwaukee Jacobs chuck better is when you go to put a drill bit in there, you can dial the little Jacobs chuck and it click, click, click. So you know that it's holding the drill bit nice and secure. In terms of the bit changer chucks that both of these come with, there is a couple differences. The Milwaukee chuck is, you can push insert. You don't have to pull the collar to insert. The Festool chuck, you do have to push this little green collar back to insert the bit. The one main difference with these bit changer collars is this takes Centrotech bits. So you have to get special Festool bits that will work in this Centrotech system. And the main difference here is the Centrotech has a longer shank. We'll talk a bit more about that when we get to the precision category. So with the attachments, not much of a difference between the two, but it is a really nice bonus to have this offset chuck. So far, everything's coming up red, but let's have a look at the last 2 categories, and I'll show you why the CXS is not only a decent tool, but of all the tools that I've ever used, this is my favorite. The love for this thing runs deep. So let's talk ergonomics and overall tool design. Now, if you look at these drills, they're almost a clone of one another. I think this drill's been around for at least 10, maybe 15 years, so a long time. Milwaukee pretty much just copied most things about this drill, but there's a few subtle details that don't seem like a big deal, but they do add up. So the first thing that I noticed is the grip on these things. Now with the CXS, this thing fits into your hand like a glove. All the kind of indentations of your hand just fit perfectly on this machine. Right along the back here, there's no voids or anything, and the feel is incredible. With the Milwaukee, because of the battery, they have this big fat part here at the bottom, and then it curves in slightly more right here. And what happens is when you put your hand on here, all of a sudden now there's a void in here. It's not a huge deal, but it just doesn't quite feel as nice as the Festool. The angles on this Milwaukee drill are kind of a little harsher, a little square, and it just doesn't feel as fluid in your hand as the Festool. This thing just kind of goes any which way. You can get your hand like right at the end here for something really precise. So let's take a look at another subtle little design feature. Now if you look at both the bit holders on these drills, they seem almost identical. But with the Festool here, the design is pretty ingenious in that it has a little sloping piece on each end of the bit holder. So what that means is as you're going to take a bit off, it just kind of pushes it out nicely into your hand. On the Milwaukee, it doesn't have that. It just has a little ridge here. So as you're coming to get a bit, you kind of have to pull it off of the magnet. And I find myself fumbling the bits a lot more with the Milwaukee design. And then with these little bits here as well, this is a subtle difference, but it makes a huge deal when you're changing these bits in and out. Now, when you put one of these bits into the chuck here, like when I'm doing door handles, I'll just have my drill bit attached here. I'll pop that off, and then I'll use this to put the door handles on. So when you want to switch these little bits in and out here, the little Milwaukee chuck is deeper. So it's pretty difficult to get the bits out. This DeWalt bit here, you throw that into this chuck here and like, shoot, it's not, like you're not getting that out without some pliers. And now with the Festool chuck here, when you go to slip the bits in and out of there, they don't sit quite as deep in there, so you can grab them in and out no problem. Yeah, so that's a subtle little difference with these little quick change chucks on the front of these drills. It's subtle, but it makes a huge difference. And one of the other things, like if you look at these two chucks, one thing I find with this Milwaukee is the little central barrel part here is a little fatter and the chuck sits in tighter. So when you put a screw on there, it's kind of hard to see where your bit is, and it makes it hard to get this thing orientated. But with the Festool, the bit sits out a little farther. The barrel is a little smaller, so you can always kind of have a visual on where the screw and the bit is, and it just makes it a lot easier to orientate things. Now let's get to the two biggest tool design issues here. This is the first one. Now the Festool CXS, you can stand this thing up all day long. The base blade on here is nice and wide. Stands up great, doesn't want to tip over. You're getting ready to put a screw in, you've got the screw on there, your drill standing up, you reach over, you're good to go. The Milwaukee, the base blade on here is super small. It will stand up, but if you bump this thing at all, it's going down, the bits will fall out. And for all those people out there that are going to comment and say, put the big battery on. Nope, the big battery is way worse. It just wants to fall forward. It's not a deal breaker, but it's just the way that I use a drill. I stand all of my drills up. The other drills that I use are the Makita Subcompact, and they stand up beautifully as well. And the biggest ergonomic difference with these drills that I absolutely hate with this Milwaukee is the push button forward reverse. You have to push the button. There's a little light up arrow that tells you if you're going forward and reverse. It's freaking ridiculous. I've been using drills for over 30 years, and every single drill has the same switch. Reverse, forward. I can pick up the drill left-handed or right-handed, and just by feeling a tactile sensation, I know that, okay, I'm drilling something in, I'm pulling it out. Sometimes you have to put things in, pull them out, put them in. Say you're putting in a pocket screw. Sometimes you'll put the pocket screw in, you're going forward, it pushes the material apart, you throw it in reverse, forward, reverse, forward. Yeah, so with the Milwaukee, you can't do that move. I mean, you can slide your thumb all the way up and get it on the button, but you push that button a few times and you don't know what the heck's going on with this drill. Your thumb will start blocking the arrow lights, so you can't see anything. Now, if you're thinking of getting one of these installation drills, you're getting them for precision. If you want to drill big holes, get yourself a drill. If you want to put lag bolts and giant screws in, get yourself an impact driver. But if you need to do a bunch of precise work in tight spaces in a variety of different circumstances, the installation drills are incredible. I've owned the Festool for about 5 years, and I primarily use it for cabinet installation, putting on handles, attaching cabinets to the wall, and pocket holes. Now, I picked up the Milwaukee about 6 months ago to do a review, and I hoped that it would replace this tool. And I do own other M12 tools, so I was interested in getting some more batteries. So ultimately, I hoped that this would be able to replace the Festool CXS, but it can't. That came to a head on one fatal day for the Milwaukee. I was putting on these brass strips onto this giant hood fan. The hood fan was probably, hard to say, at least $5,000. It was a giant unit. It had all these metal inlays and strips. And there I am, I have to screw on all these brass strips with these tiny little screws. And at that point, I had the Milwaukee for about a month and had been using it on site, seeing if it could replace the Festool. And it came to putting these screws in, and I couldn't do it. There was no way I was gonna use this. I went out in the truck and I grabbed the CSX. The Centrotech chuck on these drills gives you extra precision. The bit's not gonna wanna wobble around nearly as much as the Milwaukee and just the regular hex type chucks. So you get that. The trigger control, this drill has 1300 RPMs in high speed, and this is 1600. And the 1300 is just kind of that sweet spot. It becomes like a bit of a motorized screwdriver. It's ultra precise. The precision and the control of this drill is unmatched. It's my favorite tool of all time. Thanks for watching. If you're into tool reviews, check these ones out up here. We'll see you over there.